myth number 2 is bracing is bad for my spine, or bracing is bad for the spine. So we need to not brace. We need to not sort of hold our body tense. Now, I'm going to say that's a myth because it depends on the brace and it depends on the activity that you are about to do. So a brace, an abdominal brace, is not where you 100% tense your torso and then sort of you can barely breathe and you can't really move and you're sort of stuck in a position. That's one type of brace. That is a very heavy brace. Another type of brace is a very mild brace, and it depends on when we would use it. Now, there is some truth in that example of bracing is bad for the spine. And that would be if you are holding it 24/7 and you're holding it in that position and you can't move and it's, you can't breathe and I'm rigid and I move like a robot. If you were doing that throughout everyday life, then it's a problem. Then I would agree it is a problem. If you have come across that understanding of I shouldn't brace, and then you need to lift a heavy box off the floor, then that piece of understanding may be a problem. Because in that scenario, the brace is useful. If it's a heavy object that you need to get right down, brace, and then lift, then it's useful. As long as you still have use for the hips, use for the knees. So you bend at the hips, you bend at the you bend at the knees, and you are able to lift. Then that heavy brace is useful. Another type of brace is a light brace. So again, if you were to see a pencil on the floor that you wanted to pick up, and you used a heavy brace to go and pick it up, so you had to breathe, right, can't breathe, got to pick the pen up, and then you went down to pick it up, again, in that scenario, it would be a problem. If you had to do it because your back is so sensitive, again, it's a problem, but because you are having to do that. So your back is in such a state that you are having to do that. Now, to pick up a pen normally, people don't need to have a heavy brace like that. To pick up a pen, it may just be a light brace. Now, why do we light brace? Or first of all, why do we brace to start with? If you can imagine, you've got, let's just say S1 at the bottom, L5, L4, L3, L2, L1, and then you've got T12 in the rib cage. Basically, those 5 vertebrae don't have any support. So they, like the sacrum has the pelvis as a way of supporting itself, albeit they are fused vertebra, but they have the pelvis as a means of support. If you go to the thoracic spine, they also have the rib cage, so a bony support system. The lumbar spine doesn't have a bony support system, so it needs the muscles to support the vertebra. So when you abdominally brace and you contract the abdominal wall with the rectus abdominis and the obliques at the side, what you're essentially doing is you're taking a guy rope from L1, L2, L3, L4 and L5 and fixing it down onto the rib cage, but also from the obliques around. So you're basically holding those vertebrae in place and stabilizing the spine. So it doesn't, not that it's going to wobble all over the place like I'm doing, but as a basic understanding, it's there to stabilize the spine. So in a heavy lift, when there's more chance of it being irritated or there's greater instability, then you use that heavier brace to hold it in place. The closer you are to the episode of back pain, the more of a brace that you would use. If you are picking a pen up from the floor, it's probably useful just to lightly brace, go down, pick the pen up off the floor and come back up. Because all you're doing, you're just stabilising the vertebrae in place and then giving it a base of support. So it doesn't, you can get little micro movements in it. Again, I'm exaggerating how much the movement is, but you can get micro movements that can create spasms. So that can create problems. So we need to start thinking about the brace as a useful thing for the spine. In some respects, the body will make you do it. If you've ever had a back spasm, you will notice that in the initial part of the back spasm, you will find yourself holding yourself. That is the body unconsciously making you hold the body. So in that regard, the body's doing it at an unconscious level. As the body starts relaxing, there is a time and a place to use a light brace. There is a time and a place to use a heavy brace. There is also a time and a place not to use a heavy brace, i.e. when you're moving around everyday life in general, or when you're picking a pen up from the floor. There is also a time when it's not that useful to use a light brace, when you're picking a heavy thing off the floor. So you need to kind of be able to put the brace into perspective. So by just saying holding a brace or holding yourself rigid is bad for your spine, in some scenarios is correct, but in other scenarios is incorrect. And again, it's coming to that understanding that we have to know when to use the brace, where to use the brace, how to use the brace, and why we're using the brace. So again, it's not as simple as someone just coming along and saying, don't brace, you need to move, you need to bend your spine, you need to do this, you need to do that. There is a use for the brace. You just got to know when to use it, how to use it, and why you're using it.